Hi guys, this is Riley, and today I'm going to go over one of the more serious subjects again. Now, I have seen a lot of people on TikTok, even my friends, talking about things their parents have said to them and things family members have done to them, which are not considered abuse or sexual harassment, but very much should be. I'm going to get into this video real fast, not much of an intro. It's just about toxic parenting techniques and not respecting your child's boundaries. And I think this is important if your child stresses this to you, for both you as the parent and the child to listen to a video like this video or a video like this. Let's talk about some of the mean things, the toxic things that parents say to their children. Starting with one I've covered before, like this one, for example, is, "I'm not your friend, I'm your mom," or "I'm not your friend, I'm your dad." Now, this can be very harmful to your child's emotions because typically when you think of a friend, you think of a person you can confide in and tell about your emotions and your secrets and your feelings. Family members, you can't always do that, but with friends, most of the time you can. Now, what would be a better thing to say is, sometimes I have to be your mom before your friend, but don't say, don't say I'm not your friend, I'm your mom. A better way to say that is, sometimes I have to be your mom before your friend, because you have to, as the parent, take a more mature role than a friend would. But just saying you're not your child's friend is really emotionally harmful to your child, and I've experienced this once or twice myself. And it's just plain mean. Because shouldn't you be happy your child thinks of you as a friend? That someone they feel safe to confide in and get along with? And I think it's great that a child thinks of a parent as not just an authority figure, but as an equal on some level, someone they're comfortable talking with as an equal. Now, sure, you are the parent, so you have rule over and you know more things and you're more mature than the child, but talking over them and acting like they're never equal to you is just genuinely toxic and very harmful to your child's emotions and development as a person. A lot of toxic parenting techniques and sayings can actually lead to children getting into toxic relationships with other people as adults, whether it be romantic, friendship, etc., workplace relationships. It can lead people to think that these things are okay and then get into these toxic relationships later in life, which is very harmful. I've heard people say, "Oh, so I'm just the worst mom ever," or "Oh, so I'm just the worst dad ever," or "I'm just the worst parent ever, aren't I?" And that's putting words in your child's mouth that's putting words in your child's mouth that a lot of the time they didn't say. When your kid is arguing with you, or they're saying they're upset by something you do, like, "Hey, this thing you did upset me and hurt me," and you respond with, "Oh, so I'm just the worst parent ever." Honestly, at that point, you said it, not them. But you are guilting your child into believing that they're insulting your parenting, when really they just want to discuss an issue with you that you may have made a mistake or they may be confused. But instead of hearing them out, you get immediately defensive and guilt trip them and make them feel bad for speaking up when something hurts them. That could lead to later in relationships, when they're like in a romantic relationship, they might get in with an abusive partner. And whenever they think there's a problem, they're too scared to bring it up because they're afraid that by saying, "Hey, I don't like this," they're insulting that person. You are raising your child to be trapped in an abusive relationship when you do things like that. Next is, "I brought you into this world and I can take you out of it." So essentially what you've just said is, you've just threatened to murder your child. You've threatened to kill your child. I don't know I don't know how anyone in their right mind could say that to a child. It genuinely just, I shouldn't have to explain that one. It should just be like obvious how wrong that is. Another one I've heard used on one of my family members is, "I'll give you something to cry about." Like, if you're mad at your kid and they're crying because you're upset at them and you don't want them to cry, so you say, "Stop crying or I'll actually give you something to cry about." What does that mean? What are you gonna do? Yell at them more? Ground them? Are you gonna hit them? What do you mean you're gonna give them something to cry about? If they're crying because of what you've already done, like yelling at them, you've already given them a reason to cry. They're a child. Yelling is usually not the answer unless it's very severe cases. Yelling and screaming at a child and overwhelming them and that's making them scared of you is not how you teach your child. They're not going to follow good principles in the future because they think it's good and they believe it's good. They're just going to follow principles because they're afraid they'll get hurt if they don't, and those principles may not always be good. Again, like if they're in an abusive relationship, they may do whatever that person tells them to because they're afraid they're going to get hurt, because you, when you were raising them, said, I'll give you something to cry about whenever they were upset. Of course, there you're just threatening physical or emotional violence. That's just really not okay, and that is definitely a form of emotional abuse. You are emotionally abusing your child if you say all the things I've listed so far. Children do not learn well from being hit. Think about this. When a kid hits another kid, it's called aggression, bad behavior. When a kid hits an adult, it's called disrespect. When an adult hits an adult, it's called assault. When an adult hits a kid, it's called discipline. So, you, a grown adult, hitting another grown adult who's around the same size as you is assault. But hitting a kid who's a third of your size is perfectly fine in discipline. Don't even be like, oh, it's just a light spank, I barely hurt them, it was just a tap to get their attention. In any form, if you're even like just squeezing their shoulder when you're mad at them, or holding their arm or anything, it doesn't even have to be hitting. If you are physically doing anything that they do not want to be done to them, that is still assault, whether you have guardianship over them or not, and you are using physical punishment to teach your child not to do things, which is again just fear-mongering. You're teaching your child to do what people say all of the time, regardless of it's good or bad, because they're afraid to get hurt if they don't. And sitting down and talking to your child like they're an equal is a much better way to get points across. Explain to them what they've done wrong, because they're young, especially toddlers that I see parents hit. Are you out of your mind? You are hitting something a quarter of your size, and you think you have a right to just because you created them? They're a living being. They're their own person. They feel fear and pain. And at that age especially, their brains aren't developed enough to register everything they've done wrong, especially not the first time. What you do is sit down and explain it to them. Tell them what they've done wrong. Because if you just start hitting them and they don't know what they've done wrong, even if they have done something wrong and you just start hitting them, but you don't even tell them what the wrong thing they did was, because whatever they did wrong, they might not have known was wrong. So when you just start hitting them and don't even tell them what they did wrong, they're just going to be afraid to do anything, and they're going to be afraid of you. Do you want your children to grow up afraid of you? Do you want the only memories your children have of you to be of fear? It's just terrible. Now I'm moving on to the second subject of this video. I know I keep clicking on and off, but I was going to edit it out, but I feel like I'm a little too lazy to edit it out this time because I just wanted to say my piece, post this, and then go back to schoolwork because I have a lot of schoolwork to do. But the second point I wanted to make on this video is respecting your child's boundaries. Your child is never obligated to hug you, kiss you, hold your hand, let you touch them in any way. You shouldn't even be putting your hand on their shoulder if they don't like that. They are not obligated to show you any form of physical affection. It would be nice if they did, and you taught them how nice it is, but even if you're a great parent and your child just doesn't want to give you a hug, it's not the end of the world. Your child is uncomfortable with that. Now, you may think that a hug is something ridiculous to be uncomfortable about, but let me ask you this. Would you be uncomfortable if a stranger came up and grabbed your butt? No. And you might say, oh, well, hugging someone is not a stranger grabbing your butt. That's a completely different thing. Grabbing the butt by a stranger is way worse. Well, you may think that, but that's how being forced to hug someone feels to them. Never force your child to hug or kiss family members or yourself. That's just going to make them reclusive into themselves and just be nervous and scared and shrunk into themselves all of the time. And I've had experience with this. It's happened to me a few times. And my family that's taking care of me now is great, but there have been a few times where things have happened with some less great family members. So a lot of these are speaking from personal experience. And also, the top of my lip is red right now. I just noticed that. My lips are very chapped right now, but and also another thing about child's boundaries. I've seen parents removing the door from their children's rooms. Hello? So you're allowed to just look at them anytime, no matter what they're doing. You can look at them while they're sleeping, while they're changing, and you can be like, oh, well, they changed in the bathroom. Their bedroom is a place that is private to them. How would you feel if you didn't have a door and your kids could just walk in and watch you doing whatever you're doing in the bedroom all of the time? And you could be like, oh, well, I'm worried my child is doing bad things. And then talk to them about it. The only thing that doing things like that, making them keep their door open all the time and making them remove the door from the hinges, all that's doing is teaching them better how to hide things from you. It's giving them better skills to hide things from you. Because you don't trust them. So they're going to learn to hide things instead of telling you the truth. I just do not know what I would do if I was forced to keep my door open all the time. I genuinely not be comfortable. And then the parents who are like, so you say, no, I don't want my door open all the time. I want it closed. And then the parent responds, why? What are you hiding? A child wanting to keep their door closed and wanting to keep their room private is not them hiding anything from you. It could be personal, and they're not hiding anything from you just by wanting their own space where they're not seen. I don't understand what's so hard to grasp about that. It just genuinely is mind-boggling. And if your child is doing like bad things, I can get like making them keep their door open and every now and then, or checking in on them, or not letting them take anything into their room. But a child should be allowed to close a door and have privacy. Now, if you're worried about them doing something in that room, just give them like, put all of their things that they do in a different room, and then just the bed in one room so that all they can do when their door is closed is sleep, and they can still do all of their other activities outside of their room. But children deserve privacy just as much as you do. And and even that example I just gave of a solution is still very, very iffy, and I wouldn't really go with it. But if you absolutely have to, maybe you could do that. And going through your child's phone. Now, it's one thing if the police are like, hey, there might be criminal stuff on this phone and we need to check it. Sure. But just going through your child's phone, like, let's say your child is watching porn, okay? What's wrong with that? Especially adolescents and teenagers. They are changing in their body, and the porn is as long as they're watching porn between two consenting adults, then it's fine. They're learning about their body. Almost every teenager watches porn at one point or another. As long as it's two consenting adults in it, it's fine. Two or more consenting adults, it has to be all consenting adults. And just, seriously, what's your problem with your kid learning about their body? Also, parents who fearmonger their kids like, you're gonna go to hell if you touch yourself or masturbate. That person is allowed to put their own hands on their own body. I don't understand. It's not your body, it's theirs. It's not your hands, it's theirs. They are learning about their body and they're bringing themselves pleasure in a way that harms literally nobody. It doesn't harm anyone. As long as they're doing it behind closed doors and not doing it on other people's property, like getting all the gross stuff on the property. As long as they're doing it and they're not like on a family member's couch and getting it all messy and stuff. As long as they're doing it on their own property behind closed doors, it's fine. I don't understand. And by their own property, I don't mean like legally their property. If you give your kid a room, even though it's technically legally yours, if you give a kid a room, that's their room, that's their stuff. You're not using it, but they are. You got it for them, even though it's legally yours, it's still their stuff, their personal stuff. That would be like getting mad at your kid for like getting a cut and bleeding on their bed. It's just another bodily fluid on their own bed that can be washed. And I just genuinely don't understand what is the problem with people not respecting their children's boundaries and respecting their privacy. Because I've seen it in my own family happening to other family members, and it's just really sad because one of my family members who has had their parents do that to them, now they're an absolute wreck. They hide things from everybody, they don't trust anybody, they never tell anyone about their problems because their parents broke any trust they would have in anyone to keep their things personal. So that's mainly what I wanted to share today, and I wanted to bring up this issue because a lot of kids are dealing with it, I've noticed, and it's very upsetting, but I just wanted to give my piece on it, and that's all for today. And yes, I will be posting less serious videos in the future. I just have to get the connector for my phone so I can play my Zelda games on my phone and get good recording quality. I just need the adapter thing because the only thing the box will do is do it to a TV. So I have to get some other stuff for that, but it shouldn't take too long. And yeah, so thanks for listening, and yes, there will be even more content rather than the stuff I just mentioned and everything. And thank you guys for listening to me, and goodbye. Love you guys.